Jenkins.
As a kid growing up in the 90s, I was all about the Power Rangers, playing NFL Game Day and NBA Live and Crash Bandicoot, and my two favorite shows to watch besides Power Rangers, and as I got a little bit older, was Martin and the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Now, when I got a little bit older and I was allowed to watch rated R movies, aka I would watch them at a friend's house at a sleepover, when I found out that Will Smith and Martin Lawrence was in the same movie, oh, it was a complete game changer. It was game over, and ever since then, I've been a Bad Boy fan for life. Now, what's crazy is next year will mark the 30th anniversary of the first film, and today we're talking about the next chapter. But the question is, do these icons still have the magic? Does the joke still land? Is the action still there? And is this the most fun you'll have in the theater all summer? Well, we'll be discussing that and much more in today's review of Bad Boys Ride or Die. But first, let's get the conversation going in the comments below. Let me know if you're a Bad Boy fan and if you were excited to check out this new movie. But also, of course, once you've seen this new film, let's talk about the pros, the cons, the funniest moment that you thought it was in the movie, the best scene, what worked, what didn't work. Would you like to see maybe one more movie in the franchise? And also, if you've seen all four of the films, let me know your rankings in the comments below. So as I stated in my opening, when it comes to Will Smith and Modern Mod, they are just two legends in my eyes. I've seen all their movies, I've seen Martin's stand-up shows, I've listened to Big Will's albums, and I've been a fan through all their highs and their lows of their careers. So to me, it's an event when these two get together and we get,
who's there?
Mike Lowrey
and Marcus Burnett coming together to stop crime. So let's just jump right into my positives, and no better place than to start than the two legends themselves, and that's the leads of this film. First off, the chemistry after all these years between the two is phenomenal. Not that it matters, but it plays to me that they are boys off screen, and their comedic timing is perfect individually, but also as a duo. You really get to feel the love they both have for these characters and know what it means to them to play these characters for people like myself who's been growing up with these characters, and just seeing their personal stories and their journeys in this film was maybe the best of the series. Now, breaking down the performances individually, now we always know that Marcus has always been the family man, but in this film, something happens to him very early that changes his outlook on life and sets him on this path of exploring the possibilities of fate and maybe living another past life and discovering what it means to have a soulmate, which just provided some of the best laughs in the film, but also really does allow you to see the growth and the progression and development of this character all these years later. Now, if you're a fan of Martin Lawrence like I am, you know that off screen he's been dealing with some health issues and he's seen better days. He's not like the peak Martin Lawrence like he was in his heyday, which is fine. We all get older. Father Time is undefeated. But all that being said, that didn't stop him from giving his all in this film, and it just brought me pure happiness and peak entertainment watching him get his great moments and having these different things that he's playing with in this film. And I just love seeing Martin having fun, and I had fun watching him. Now, switching over and talking about his partner in solving crime, I'm talking about Will Smith as Mike Lowrey. Who didn't want to be Mike growing up and running down the street with his shirt half open saving the day? Now, we've always known him to be the playboy, the hothead that takes the shots first and asks questions later, but this time around, he's a much different character. Now, no spoilers, but just like Marcus, something happens to Mike very early on in this film, and it gives him a new path and a character arc that really adds the stakes to his life. But not only that, he's still trying to figure out how to have a relationship with his son who tried to kill him in the last movie, all while trying to find a way to apologize for killing his crazy ass witch mom back in the previous film. Now, something else I really enjoyed about Mike's journey in this film is how the film shows him battling with these extreme levels of anxiety, and how the film showcases him dealing with like the realistic depiction of having panic attacks. And as you'll see in the film, these attacks were kind of caused by just years of losing some of his closest friends, and how the film handles that and how they bring it full circle was just handled in such a satisfying way. So no question, these two are still on top of their game. And one thing that you'll know about each of these films is, from Bad Boys 1, 2, and 3, they sometimes shine a light on one character more than the other, but I would say, for me personally, I will go as far as saying that I feel as though both Marcus and Mike, their arcs are probably the best in this film, like equally. Like they both get a time to shine. They both have things they have to overcome. They both have moments where they're at their lowest and they get the moment to have their time to shine. So I love to see the arc that we get with both of these characters, which I thought was just handled so beautifully. I don't want to dismiss the rest of the actors in their respective supporting roles. I really enjoyed seeing, again, Vanessa Hudgens, and we got Alexander Ludwig. I thought both had a moment to shine in this film. You have Paola Núñez as the captain, who is still fine as hell and is a really key character in the story. You, of course, have the return of Jacob Scipio as Armando. He is great at really showcasing him being able to carry the action scenes, but also giving him his props and his acting chops going back and forth with Will and understanding each other as father and son. Now, without giving too much away, because I did not know a particular actress was in this film based on the trailers, unless I missed it, but let's just say this particular actress was in a very popular show, and I really enjoyed how integral their character was and how it played into the overarching themes of second chances and forgiveness. And of course, as far as their performers go, they're great as usual. Now, I always make it a point to say this when I talk about a comedy film or a film like this that has a lot of comedy that it relies on. Obviously, comedy and jokes are subjective. What I might find funny, you might not, and vice versa. But I would say for me and my personal sensibilities, I thought that most of the jokes in this film landed because they were a mixture of great callbacks from the previous film. They fit perfectly within the narrative and the situations our characters found themselves in. And they also fit perfectly within the action beats, which I thought just flowed so well. And I'll just say this as well, my theater was packed, and let me just tell y'all something, it was hot as hell in that theater. It felt like I was in a damn oven, but the joy, the laughter, the excitement in the room really kind of helped the experience, because I would say that if you asked my audience last night if they thought the jokes landed, they would probably say yes. So I had a good time with the jokes, and I thought that the movie was funny as hell. Now, talking about the returning directors, Adil and Bilall, who are the dudes that I just root for. I love their energy and the enthusiasm that they bring to this franchise is just incredible. And I just love how they pay homage to the bad boy style that Michael Bay brought to the franchise back in the 90s and into the 2000s, and they do such a good job of doing the camera movements, having that high energy, and again, just bringing you the fun that you come to love for this franchise. But at the same time, let me be honest, they got their own flair. They have their own style and sensibilities, and like I said, I just root for them, and I feel like, and I might be completely wrong, and I would love to ask them this if I ever got the chance to interview them or talk to them, but if you all don't know, they were assigned to not only be a part of the Batgirl movie, but they shot the entire movie, and they just canceled the film. So to me, this was their get back. This was like, you know what, WB, we're going to hop over to Sony. We're going to make a fourth Bad Boy movie and show you all what you missing out on. Because I'm talking about the action, their direction sensibility is just so next level in this movie. I almost feel as though the way I feel like Michael Bay was kind of maybe tamed back with his first film back in 95 and how he came out guns blazing with Bad Boys 2, the same thing could be said about them, where I feel like part 3 was like their introduction to the franchise. They weren't given all the keys to the vehicles, but this time around, the studio said, hey, have fun, do what you do best, and they just let wild. Like, it is over the top. It's a lot of energy. I love what they bring to this franchise and how they handle the direction, because it's their style. It's immersive. It's exciting. It's innovative, and it just makes you feel like you're watching a summer blockbuster and just having a hell of a good time. But also giving props to their DP and their camera operators, because the camera work in this film is just crazy. It feels like I was playing Call of Duty, and it's just so much great action. There's some incredible work within the entire film when it comes to the action beats, but also the drone work. There's a moment in that third act, and if you know Bad Boys, you know the third acts are always high peak energy, high peak action, and I love the third act, especially a particular creature in the water. That movement in the movie was so damn good. But again, talking a little bit more about that camera work, the cinematography is great. That first person POV in the action scene just makes you feel like you're a part of the action throughout the entire time. But last but certainly not least, all I'm going to say is there is a character in a particular scene in this film that absolutely brought the house down. Like, I kid you not, I felt like I was back in 2019 watching Captain America picking up Thor's Thor's hammer, the energy, the excitement, the literally nerd chills that I had while watching this film, because I'm a huge action buff and I love this particular action sequence, but what makes it even better is the character that they put in this scene. And I'll just go ahead and say this. When it comes to this character, this brother looked like he was 30 over 20 years ago when he was only a teen. But my boy Reggie is a grown-ass man beast in this movie, and he has one of the best moments I've seen all year. Now, the scene I'm referring to, and you'll know what I'm talking about when you see the film, but it makes him the best son-in-law in movie history. Like, it is just incredible. The scene alone is worth your price of admission. And more importantly, it's not only a fan favorite moment because you know who that character is from over 20 years ago, but it plays a part into the story because it really plays into the stakes of this particular story. So MVP goes to you, Reggie. Now, last points I'll mention before getting to my criticisms. This movie is 100% a welcoming movie to newcomers, but also a film for the fans. Has been there from the beginning. There's some great callback and references. And the last thing I want to mention is I really love how the film explores the themes of second chances and trusting your instincts and staying close to the ones you would ride and die for and overcoming your inner battles. Now, by all means, this movie isn't super deep in regards to those themes, but I just really appreciate how it tackled the themes that were shown in this film. So those are my main pros. Switching gears and talking about my criticisms that I have. And the first thing I want to say off the bat is, and this is honestly just kind of a nitpick, but I'm kind of serious at the same time. Bad Boys Ride or Die for the fourth film. We've all said it. I'm going to sound like a broken record, but come on. The opportunity was right there on the silver platter. Bad Boys for Life shouldn't have been the title for the third one. I know they were probably like, well, we don't know if we're going to make a fourth one. You all knew it was going to be good. So the title, it still bothers me. In my headcanon, it's Bad Boys 4, but secretly it's Bad Boys for Life. But I'll let it slide with the Ride or Die because it does play into the narrative. So other things that are actually a little bit more serious in my criticisms, when it comes to the plots of these movies, they're not the most in-depth or complex or super thought out, but I appreciate the plots for what they are. But I will say when it comes to the central plot of this movie it's okay, but it's not the greatest. And to be fair, none of them are really the greatest plots, but in particular when it comes to the setup of a plot, I will say the beginning of the movie, the first 15-20 minutes, they weren't bad, but tonally speaking, the things that we're kind of looking at and particularly kind of transitioning to a particular character. I mentioned Will Smith goes through like this new life path and he has a plot that's very heavily involved very early on. And what I'll say with my criticism is when it comes to that particular plot and a particular character, we don't get to know them well enough to truly care as much as the film wants you to. Another thing that I'll mention about the plot and the story, and this isn't a spoiler, it's in the trailer, they're fugitives, they're on the run, and when it comes to that idea of them on the run, you see that it gets pretty big. Like there's a bounty on their head, they're like, you're gonna get caught anywhere you go, but that idea, that tension, that kind of stakes, that high tension kind of only has like a portion in the film. I thought they could have maybe elaborated on it more as far as like that dire sense of like they don't know if they're gonna live or die if they go up the street, go around the block. So I wish that they would have put more of an emphasis on that fear of not knowing what's going to happen next. And I will say why I thought that the performance of our main villain played by Eric Dane was solid. He wasn't anything that memorable. Like he's a great actor, but when you look at villains from part 1 and part 2, and I honestly, the son being the villain, the mom being the villain in part 3 were like really solid to that story. So unfortunately, I would say it's the weakest villain in the franchise, even though it's a good performance, but I wish that it was just a little bit more involved in the narrative. And last thing I'll mention as far as my criticisms, it's a little bit of a me thing, but I also think that some people might agree with me if you've been around the franchise since day one. And what I'm referring to is the recasting of a particular character. Now, I'm referring to Teresa Burnett, who was previously played by Teresa Randall. And it's nothing against the beautifully and talented actress Tasha Smith, but it just bothered me. And honestly, when she's not in the film a lot, but when she is on screen, it's just like, it don't feel right. And again, nothing against her. I'm just like, man, we could have. Now, I don't know. I think it might have been a scheduling issue. I know a couple years ago, someone saw her in a wheelchair. So I don't know what the true behind the scenes reasons are that she wasn't brought back. But it kind of bothered me. And it kind of, again, the beginning of the film, when she's mostly involved, I'm just like, the vibes aren't there. So again, a little bit of nitpick on my end. But also, I think if you would agree with me, let me know if you've seen all the other films. So those are my main pros. Those are my main cons. Before I give you all my overall thoughts on my score and let you know if this is worth checking out, I want to take the time to thank you all for making it to this point in the video. If you've enjoyed yourself so far, do me a favor, hit the thumbs up, share your thoughts in the comments, but also share this video to anyone and everyone you know that might be interested in seeing this film, and also consider sticking around by subscribing to the channel. Overall, I'm going to be honest with you all, I had the best time in the theaters that I've had all year. The chemistry between Martin and Will is unmatched, the jokes hit, and the action sequences and the direction overall was phenomenal. I honestly don't see how you cannot have a great time with this film, and as I mentioned in my breakdown, Reggie McDonald is the greatest movie son-in-law all time and has one of the best scenes you'll see all year. I'm going to give Bad Boys Ride or Die a 4 out of 5. I asked y'all earlier to rank these films once you see the fourth one. If you've seen all four, rank them in the comments below. I'm going to share my rankings in the coming days, so keep an eye out for that video. But as far as this movie goes, I talked about the action, the direction, the performances, the development, the growth in the character, the storylines that go on. Let's just say that this movie is pretty high on my list. And if you saw my out-of-theater reaction, I said what I said, and I still stick by it. So keep an eye out for my ranking coming soon. But again, I appreciate you all watching today's review. Hope you're staying safe, and I'll catch you all on the next video.